Hello class! Last week we went over the how to create a header navigation in Photoshop. We didn't quite finish up, so I wanted to go ahead and create one video to show you from start to finish what we did so you can scroll around and take a look at all the different steps that are associated with creating the particular header that we did in class. So right now, here I am in Photoshop CS3. We're working in CS6 on Macs. I'm working on a Windows machine right now. But that's okay. Everything that we're going to do here today is in CS6, so you can figure that out and also figure it out on what particular system you're working on. So the very first thing that I like to do is figure out what colors I'm going to use for this particular project. So I have Color Lovers open right here. Color Lovers is a site that you can take a look at different palettes and get a good idea as to what colors you might use. I'm randomly just going to pick some colors here. I like to go to the trending branding category right now. Let's go ahead and find a good color set that we could potentially use. Alright, what looks good? Let's go ahead and use this Smith and Brennan residence. That's a pretty good set. Now, if you went ahead and clicked on this, you'd get all the hexadecimal values, the RGB colors, if you wanted to get the exact numbers that you wanted to use. Since we're going to be using in Photoshop, I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and be able to pick those colors right out. So one little trick that I do is, I like how this little block looks. Let's see if we can just save it right here. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to save that. No, just an HTML document. So what I can do is I can take a print screen. I'm going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to go File, New. And since I'm on a Windows computer and I did the print screen button, I just clicked that up in the upper right hand corner of my keyboard, it's automatically going to take the width and height that I have on my screen. Now, I have two screens here, so that's why it's going to be so wide. I'm going to edit and just paste what I had done. So there we go. I've got my print screen. And then I'm going to go in there and I can crop out this little bit of color. So crop that out. Zoom in a little bit. I'll go ahead and use this crop tool here too, just to show you what it would do. You can kind of get in there, fine tune it. This really doesn't matter. I'm just creating a palette of colors that I can grab as I'm doing my project. So there we go. Got my palette of colors there. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that a little bit. And then we can go ahead and start our project. So I'm going to go to File, New. And I believe we were working at 800 by 130. So I'll hit OK here. I'll name this header just for the heck of it. And hit OK. So here we go. We got our canvas. Now, I know in class that some of you had left it on a white background and you got your background layer locked down over here. If that's happening, just double-click the layer. Actually, double-click it here. And, well, there goes my blending options that we'll need in a second. And I don't even think I can emulate that because it's already unlocked. But basically, if you double-click the layer, it's going to ask you to rename it. Once you hit OK, the lock will go away and it will not be italics in this particular name here, and you'll have something called layer 1. You can delete all the pixel information. We just need a blank clear layer in here. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab my palette and I'm going to drag it right onto my canvas. Now I'm done with this layer, so I'm going to just go ahead and close it out. I don't need to save it. I'm going to go ahead and save my canvas because we're ready to play with that, so I'll just save this one to my desktop for now. Okay. So here we go. I'll go ahead and zoom it in a little bit. Let's try about 140. I think that should be pretty decent for you to see. So right now we have two layers. There's a blank layer at the very bottom, and we have our palette. I'm going to go ahead and name that palette just so we know what it is, and I can turn it on and off as I go throughout this project. Okay, so the very first thing we need to do is create a shape here at the top so that we can take half of this particular canvas and start making our navigation. Now, one thing that you'll need is your rulers, so we can pull out some guides. I already have my rulers up. If you're not seeing your rulers, you can do one of two things. The Control R, it may be Command R on a Mac, will remove and put up your rulers. Otherwise, go to your View button and you should have rulers in there. Now, one thing that sometimes happens as well, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there. I don't know what that error was about. You can go ahead and drag out your particular guides here and put it on your screen. Now, I do have my info palette up right here, and when I have that up and I start dragging this guide around, you're going to see there's that Y value, and it's going to be moving around. So since I know this is 130 tall, high, if you will, then I can get to 165 and get right into the middle of our canvas. Use this horizontal line to split it right in half. And so that's what we want. So the next step is we need to create this top half to be a specific color or have an object in there. So there's a few ways we can do it. We're going to go ahead and just use this shape tool. If I click on this rectangle tool, I can go ahead and start drawing out a rectangle. So I'm going to show you a little shortcut since we know what we need to do. I'm going to just make a little box there. I'll go up to my move tool, click on the box, and start to try to open it up a little bit. Once I start doing some transformations to it, you're going to notice right at the top you're going to have some ability to make some adjustments to your shape. So the very first thing that you'll see is its alignment on the stage. So if you look at this little center point, it's right in the center, and actually I want that to be in the upper left hand corner, so I can say, hey, let's put this box up at the 0, 0 coordinates. So you have this little box here, and I can just click in the upper left hand corner. It's going to move the center point up there, and now I can just hit 0 here, 0 on the Y. So 0 on the X and Y is going to put it up in the corner. So the next thing is we can size it out. So we already know it's 800 width. So I'll just do 800px. So it's got the pixels there. And then for the height, I'm going to do 65px. And now we have a shape that is in the top section of our canvas. Looking good already. Okay, so I'm going to get to my palette layer, click over. Oh, you know what? I didn't do my transformation, so that's why I can't click around to any other tools or any other things right here. So if I try to click to another tool, it's going to ask me if I'm going to apply that transformation, and I do, so I'll apply it. Now I can go ahead and select my palette layer. I'm just going to pull this down for a second so we can take a look at some other stuff that we're about to do. Okay, so we got the shape here. I'm going to go back up to that shape, and I'm going to go down to my layers palette, and I'm going to drop in one more layer. I usually go ahead and do that just so that I'm not accidentally adding a shape to this particular layer here. That sometimes happens in versions of Photoshop. So now I'm on a blank layer. I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to click and I'm going to hold on that rectangle tool. And I'm going to go down to the rounded rectangle tool. It gives me a little bit different shape to the things I'm going to do. And just so it doesn't blend in with this black background, I'm going to go ahead and swap my color over to white. So you can see up here it's white. And then you also notice there's a radius at the top. And I'm going to keep the radius at 10. Okay, so if I go to my stage, I'm going to hold Shift on my keyboard. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. You're going to notice a little box here is going to pop out. So if you look in your info palette on the right hand side, you can see it's adjusting. I want to get somewhere between 65 and 70. So I'm going to do about 68. That looks pretty decent. And I'm going to let go. Okay, so I got a shape there on my screen. So I'm going to go and click on my move tool once again. And now that I got my move tool, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it over here kind of arbitrarily to this right hand side of my screen. Now what you can do is if you highlight one of the corners, you'll see that your cursor is going to change depending on where you're at. So if I get right over this handler, you can size this particular guy out. But I want to zoom just a little bit away so I can do some rotation. So once I click on the rotation, you'll notice that my center point's right in the middle. So if I click right in the middle, if I started doing a transformation, it's going to start rotating right on that particular point. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a little cant here. So we can adjust the degrees. You can see the degrees if you wanted to be a little bit more granular with it. So let's say we wanted to do negative 20 degrees. I'll go ahead and put that in there. There we go. We got 20 degrees. And then I can use the keys on the keyboard to really adjust the position of this box here. So I'm just clicking up and down, and I'm going to go ahead and put that center point right on that line. Okay, so I like how that shape is looking. I'm going to go ahead and double click in the middle to apply that transformation. So that's a really nice way to get that laid out, get a little bit of work to it. So I'm going to now duplicate this shape because we're going to have 4 separate buttons that we're going to generate. So there's a few ways you can duplicate the shape. If you click Alt on your keyboard and you just click and drag out a shape, you're going to have an exact duplicate of that shape. So that's a nice method. I'm going to Control Z there to back up. Since we're going to be spacing these shapes evenly, I like to do this method. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, the Alt key on my keyboard. Now I'm going to hit the right arrow one time. What that's going to do is going to jump out. I'm going to let go of everything right now. It's going to jump one duplicate copy 10 pixels to the right. Now I'm going to let go of everything except for now I'm just going to hold down the Shift button and I'm going to count. So we already went over once. Now I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we have 9 spaces between these two particular shapes, and they're right in line. Now there's obviously some alignment tools and things like that, but we're trying to work quickly here, so let's use these keyboard shortcuts to do that. So let's repeat that step. This time I'm going to hold Alt and Shift and click the right arrow once. It's going to jump over 10 pixels. I'm going to let go of the keyboard. I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to count over the rest of the 9. So we already did once, twice, thrice, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Evenly spaced. Once again, hold down the Alt and Shift. Going to hit over the right arrow once. It's going to jump over 10 pixels. I'm going to let go of the keyboard. Now I'm going to hold Shift down, and I'm going to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we have 4 shapes evenly spaced using some copy and paste using the keyboard. Okay. So one thing we can do is, I think it's a little too close to this right-hand side edge. If you go over into your layers palette, you can click on the top layer, you can hold your Shift button, and click on the lower layer. Now I've clicked and I've selected all 4 of those layers. Now, on the keyboard, I can use the keys to shift my different shapes around. So I'm going to go ahead and just click it over a little bit. I'm not going to hold the Shift or anything. I'm just using the left mouse key to kind of tune it into place. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So you may be asking yourself, why did we get that palette? Well, it's because we can start putting things on these different layers that we started using. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make an adjustment to this top shape that we have. So I'm going to click on that shape, and there's a couple ways that we can do this. Now we could actually go ahead and put a gradient layer or just a gradient on this shape. The way I like to do it is use blending options. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click, go to blending options. It's going to bring up my blending options menu. This time I'm going to go and I'm going to click gradient overlay. Now right when I do that, it's going to throw in the gradient from white to black. That's what we have selected over here. I'm going to click on my gradient overlay to make sure that we can get to my gradient. Now if I go into my gradient, you'll notice that you can make some adjustments to it. So the very first thing I want to do is I'm going to make adjustment to this particular color value. So you'll see here's the black, and then here as it goes to the white gradient. So it's just kind of like picking a color. You can go ahead and double click there, bring up your color palette, and now we can make a selection. So what I'm going to do for this one is we're going to go ahead and make let's go ahead and make this brownish color. And we'll make some adjustments. So I'm going to make that the left-hand color of our gradient. So I'll click OK, and you'll notice that the gradient changes. And now I'm going to go to this right-hand side, double-click again, and I'm going to pick the exact same color. So it's going to be one solid color just for a moment here. Now, in this color selector, I'm going to click on this B because I want to actually give a little bit more light tone here. And you'll notice it goes from dark to light. So now I can grab this slider and lighten it up at the top. Alright, now that's really making this pop off the screen. Alright, right about there, giving just enough contrast so you can see this gradient happen. It really gives it some depth here. Okay, I'm going to click OK on my screen so we have a really nice smooth gradient here. I'm going to click OK one more time. Now just since we're in here, you can adjust other aspects of your gradient if you like. We're doing a linear gradient right now. The angle is at 90 degrees. There's different scaling options that you can see. You can see how it really refines that gradient. I'm going to leave it all default right now. I'm going to keep this at 100. Okay, makes a smooth gradient happen over this shape. And I'm going to click OK. Alright, the next thing is we already have some nice colors already picked out for us. So I'm going to use these first 4 colors and I'm going to start doing some blending options on my shapes. Now over here in the layer palette, you'll notice that when we put that gradient overlay on that shape, it shows that particular gradient in the overlay. So you could use the eyes to take off the effect if you wanted to see what the original shape looked like. And they always kind of show you that by default. So one way is you can hide everything up in the layer by clicking this little arrow button here. Click that button. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and apply some color values to these different shapes. So what we can do is, there's 2 things. I can just double click on that particular shape's icon right there to the left, and we're still in that B mode, so I'm going to go click on that H again, and we'll get back into that color picker mode, and I can just click on the shape that I want, or the color in my palette, get that gray there, hit OK. Now we could always use the blending options to do a color overlay, but this is just as easy. So click on this guy, click on that shape, Click on this one, color pick that, and finally our last one. Alright, that's looking pretty nice there. We have some different shapes, different colors. We're about done with this color palette, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off for the rest of the tutorial. We won't need it because we can pull the colors we want from any of these other shapes. Now, one thing that I do want to do is right-click on my shape down here, and I'm going to duplicate this layer. The reason I'm going to duplicate that shape is because I want it to put it down at the bottom of this canvas here. So I do want it to cover over the bottom sections of these buttons. So I'm just going to drag this all the way to the top, and it's going to be over the top. Now what we can do is, since we're using the keyboard a little bit, I'm going to hold the Shift key down, and I'm just going to knock that down to the bottom here, get it into place. So if you look over in your info palette, you can kind of get an idea where you're placing this and adjust. Alright, that's looking pretty nice for our little banner here that we're generating. So one thing that I want to also do is I want to give some blending effects to these buttons. They're looking kind of bland and flat right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the very first button. I'm going to right click it and I go to blending options. Let's go ahead and move this over here so we can see what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and use an inner shadow. Oop, I'm on the wrong one. I should have looked at the colors over here. That's okay, we can use that one. We'll do an inner shadow. I'm going to click on that inner shadow. I'm going to really soften it up a bit. So I'll take it down to about 50. I'm going to adjust these guys to 3 pixels, 3 pixels, 3 pixels. It's looking pretty nice. Let me adjust the angle here as well. I don't want to really mess anything else up in my document. Well, it's actually not going to mess it up too much. I'm going to go ahead and keep this at about 45. So that gives it a nice little drop shadow in there. Man, it's still a little harsh. I'm going to drop it down just a little bit more. I'm going to take it down to 25. Okay, that's a little more subtle enough. Let's go ahead and put a stroke on there too. Let's click on our stroke. Let's get a white. Get a white color in there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let me bump that up to about 5. Okay, that looks nice. I like those blending effects that I did to that first button, so you'll notice that they got applied to this particular layer. I'm going to hide those up in there. Now if I right click on this layer, I can actually copy that layer style, and then I can go ahead and click over here onto my other palette or into my layer, hold Shift, select all the rest of those buttons. If I right click, I can paste that layer style. There we go. We got some nice buttons in there that we got set up. Now it is going to show those blending effects, so I'm going to hide those back up in the layer. So we have a nice layout going on right here. So one of the other things that I want to do to this layout is I need to put something to balance it out. We have some repetition here. We got some proximity. It looks like these guys are going to line up pretty well together. On this left-hand side, I need to add some sort of a shape. So I did see one color in this palette I want to grab, so I'm going to pull this up to the top, and let's go ahead and grab, well, no, we're not going to use it. I'm pulling the layer back down. This palette's still there if I want to use it, but I'm just going to go ahead and use a plain old white. So click on this to reset my foreground and background color, swap them up. So I get my white, and I'm just going to drag out a big old square here. It's still on the radial square, so I'm really eyeing it so that this space and this space are pretty even here. You may even want to emulate this space, but I want them to be separated a little bit more. So that looks pretty good. Now you'll see the shape right there, but why is it not showing white? That's because of precedence. It's at the very bottom of my palette here, so I'm going to drag it all the way to the top. There we go. We got a shape on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on my move tool because I know it's not quite in the middle. So you can see this center point right here. If I knock it up a little bit, we can get it centered. And you can do some minor adjustments to get it lined up in your palette there. So this is looking really good right now. I like how everything's going. I am going to next go ahead and put some names for these buttons. So I got my white selected. I'm going to click on my text tool and I'm going to find Arial. I like Arial in this particular scenario, so I'm going to click here. Whoa, that's a huge font, so I'm going to take that down. Let's go to 36. That's going to be really too big. Go down maybe to 14. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and put news. And then I'm going to click off. Click back on. Now here's another trick. You can use that same copy that you did before to text as well. In this particular scenario though, I'm going to put some blending effects onto my text. I'm going to line this news text up. I'm going to go ahead and right click, get blending options, put a subtle drop shadow on here, and I'm going to adjust this drop shadow. I don't want it to be so far away from the text. Actually, this is probably good to do about a 1 here. Yeah, that's looking really nice. Kind of bring that shadow in very subtly. I'm going to drop this down to about 50 so it's not so harsh. That looks really good. I like how that effect's coming out. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in just so we can see this happen. Get into this side. Now, we're not going to be able to do that even spacing like we had done before. So one little trick that I like to do is I'm going to click on each of my shape layers here. And once I do that, actually let's do this layer here, you'll notice that there's that center point. So I can start dragging out some guides to help me out. I'm going to drag out a guide here, 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 and here. So just by clicking on the shape, you can use that center point to line things up. So now if I get to my news, I can line that perfectly up centered under that particular button. So now I'm just going to hold the Shift and the Alt, click the over once to get that shape to jump over to the side. Now I'm just going to hit the shape and kind of get this over to the side, and I'll use the mouse. There's no kind of counting at this point because we're going to rename these buttons. It's going to adjust the width of them. So Shift, Alt, hit it over once. Now I'm just going to let go of everything, hit Shift again, go over to the side. Okay, here we go. And Shift, Alt, and over one more time. Okay. There we go. So now we got all our buttons lined up, and what we can do next is go ahead and change the names. So this last one we'll call Contact. We'll go ahead and put this one as, what do we want to put this one as? FAQ. Sometimes there's FAQs on sites. And this other one we can do, got our blending options, call that Blog. Alright, that's looking pretty good, like a navigation for some sort of a website. So what we can also do next is go and start rearranging our palette so we know where everything is. Because everything's really kind of out of order as if you were looking at this in precedence. I mean, you can pretty much figure where you're at. Now, I'll go ahead and line these up just to finish it up. That's pretty close. FAQ, line that up underneath, and Contact. Okay, that looks nice. Everything has those blending options on there. So since news is first, I'll bring that one to the top. Blog is next. I'll bring that to the next layer, and FAQ. Now I'm going to start labeling this. So this is the bottom bit, if you will. And this will be our contact shape. You'll notice that labeling things is going to really help everything that you do. Actually, that wasn't the contact shape, was it? This was the left bit, if you will, and then this is the bottom bit. This one is our contact shape. This is our FAQ shape. All I'm doing is just clicking on the text here so we can make the adjustments. This is our blog shape. This is our news shape. And finally, this is our top bit. We got our palette. And this last layer is just a blank layer. We could actually delete that out. I'm just going to get that out of there right now. So everything's looking pretty well organized in here. Alright, so we know where everything is. I'm going to zoom back out to my 140 view. And we can take a look at everything. Now these guides, I'm going to leave them up there just for a few minutes and then we're going to get rid of them. So we're nearly done with our project. One thing that I like to do is I like to split up these buttons here. I'm going to show you a quick technique that you can do. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click a single column. So if I click a single column, I'm going to zoom back in and I'm going to go ahead and drop in this line here. Now, it's just a selection line. If you look, I went to my selection tool, held it, and it's a single column marquee tool. So what that is there 1 pixel right in this area. Now I'm going to go ahead and to the very top and put 1 extra layer so we can do this. And then I'm going to go to image. Okay, I guess it's not an image. It's in I guess I'm just going to have to do it the manual way. Oh, no, it's under Edit. And if under Edit, you'll find Fill. So we can fill with the foreground color, the background color. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and fill with the background color. I want it to be black right now. So if you have black as your foreground, go ahead and use it your foreground color. Basically, we just need it to be black, whatever one it is in your foreground or background. I'll hit OK, and it's going to fill that pixel value with black. Okay, so then I'm going to go over and I'm going to use my select tool. I'm going to transform that selection, and I'm just going to click it over one time to the right hand side, and I'm going to go to my select tool. I can just hit enter, and I'll do that. I'm going to zoom in. It didn't move it over to the side. That's okay. We'll just go ahead and deselect by holding Control D on the keyboard, and what you can do is you can just go ahead and duplicate that layer that you generated. You can bump it over one. You have to make sure you're on your move tool. Move it over once to the right. Now once you do that, you can use a variety of methods to fill it again. I'm going to go ahead and grab my paint bucket tool. I'm already selected on the white, and I'm going to drop in a fill of white. So now we have a black 1 pixel line and a white 1 pixel line right up our page. So one thing that you can do is I want to just merge these two layers together. So if you click on that top layer, click on this bottom layer, you can right click and you can merge those layers. It's going to merge them together. I'm going to call this one a separator. Okay, I don't even know if I spelled that right. That's okay. And now I'm going to go back to my selection tool, get the rectangular selection tool, and I'm just going to come in here pretty arbitrarily and make a selection. So I selected those two items. Now if I zoom back out, you're going to notice that I just selected a little piece of that selector. And this is the piece I want to keep. So if I go over to Select and Inverse, it's going to select everything else. Now I want to make sure I'm on that separator, and I'm going to hit Delete on the keyboard. It's going to delete all the other pixels except for that particular separator. So now I can go ahead and hit Deselect by holding Control D. And now I'm going to go ahead and use my magic wand tool. I'm going to click and select everything else around the edge here. I'm going to go up to my Select, Modify, and Feather tool, and I'm going to select 2 pixels. If I hit OK, it's going to make a selection. Now hit Delete on your keyboard, and you're going to notice that it's going to kind of feather that particular separator. Now I'm going to hit Control D on the keyboard, and I'm going to zoom out to the actual size that this particular thing is going to look, and you can tell that this is the actual size because it's zoomed out to 100% level. You can see that 100% down here. It's also up in this top bit. It's going to tell me the name of my project and show what the separation is. So you can see that separator looks pretty nice at that particular level using those few effects. So I'm going to zoom in, zoom this over to the side here. I'm going to go ahead and adjust that separator, and I like it right in between those buttons. So I could use my method that we've been using, holding Shift Alt and over once, let go of everything, and then just hold the Shift, and you can probably count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is the magic number today. Sometimes you have to do it a little differently. You might have to do it 8 over holding the Shift and then let go of Shift and kind of tweak it in there with those buttons, but I got it pretty exact today. So Shift Alt over once, and 1, 2, 1, 2 back, hold the Shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so zooming out, that's looking really smooth now. Oh, moved something around there, didn't I? Control Alt Z to back up and not screw up what I just did. I'm going to do it one more time. Shift Alt once. Let go of everything. Shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everything has been spaced. Now if I zoom back out to my 140, everything's looking pretty good. So the last step in this process is we need to put some sort of graphic over here and blend this up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to generate a new text layer. I'm going to just do the text layer in black, and I'm going to put some sort of text in here. So I'm going to bump this up to about 30. And what kind of text should I put in here? I'll put header. Yeah, that sounds good. There we go. Header tutorial. I'm going to adjust this size. I'm going to hold Shift and click on this bottom corner so that I can adjust it in proportion. There we go. Watch my spacing here, my negative space. I'll make sure this looks pretty good. So I'm going to show you a little trick here to make this kind of look cool. So if you take this particular layer, I'm going to go ahead into my layers palette and just duplicate the layer. It's going to do an exact duplicate of that layer. You can kind of see it. Made it look a little bolder there because it's one layer stacked on the other. Now if I go to the Edit, Transform, and Flip Vertical, it's going to flip that copy that I just did. Now I'm just going to use my buttons on my keyboard to kind of put this right under this tutorial here. I'm going to make it look like it's a reflection. So right now it does look somewhat like a reflection, but what you can then do is right click into that particular layer and we'll do some more blending options, and I'm going to put a gradient overlay. Now the gradient overlay, it actually looks pretty smooth there, but I want to reverse the way that looks. So I'm going to go into my gradient here, and you can do this one of two ways. I'm just going to go ahead and drag this over to the side, drag the white over to that side, make some adjustments there, and then there's this little stop in the middle that shows you where the gradient happens, so you can really pull it off to the side. Now I don't like how dark it looks at the top, so I'm going to change this color. I'm going to give it a little bit more gray to it. So I'm going to just jump up in the grays here to make it look more like a reflection. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'll hit OK there. Hit OK there. And I'll hit OK one more time. This top section, I'm going to go ahead and reorganize this so I know that this top header tutorial is actually this top one. I'm going to go ahead and right click and do some more blending options. I'm going to do a bevel and emboss. Right off the bat, the bevel and emboss is a little bit too drastic for me, so I'm going to adjust some of these highlights here. You can see that there's the white highlight and then there's the dark highlight. So I'm going to take these down to about 25. Let's see if we can even see it at 25. Maybe bump it up just to about 35. This is really arbitrary what I'm doing right now. Okay, I think that gives it just enough of a little pop off that screen. That looks pretty good. And then the very last thing is I'm going to give this box a little bit of a drop shadow. So that left bit is what we called it. I'm going to right click on there, do some blending options, do a drop shadow. We have that 45 degrees on there. I'm going to take this down to about 2, 2, 2. 3, 3, 3. Take this to about 50. Looking pretty good. I think we're done. So I will go ahead and go up to my view. I'm going to clear my guides out because I don't want to see them anymore. I'm going to zoom this out to about its original size of 100. And there we go. We have a very well placed out banner. Now I see a little bit of a line right down the center here, so we might have to adjust this this bottom bit just a tad up. I don't know why these shapes tend to do that sometimes. So, oh, I can see right now that there's a little bit of an extra bit there. So if I pop it up, there we go. Everything's going to line up just right. So here we go. We got a header tutorial. The last step would be to do a file, save as, and in this one I'm going to create a JPEG, and we'll just save our header here as a header. And there we go. We have created a header. Let me open it up for you and see what our final result is. So there we go. We've created a header in Photoshop in approximately 30 minutes, and you can see how easy it is just to use various shapes and tricks and blending options to generate some sort of a header. So one of the last things that we would want to do is split this up and be able to throw it into some HTML code, which we're not going to go over right now. I might actually put a tutorial up that a little bit later down the line. But thanks for watching, and have a good day.